Hi, I'm Ailbhe McDonagh. In this video we are going to be learning a new piece called Wheelbarrow Race. This is from It's a Cello Thing, Book 1, published by Boosey and Hawkes. Wheelbarrow Race is marked con brio, so with brilliance, so you can play this piece quite fast. Straight away from the beginning I would do my favourite thing, which is to practice the bow on the open strings. So where the bow will actually be when you're playing with the left hand. This is just to give the bow confidence to really know which string it is playing at what particular time. This piece is in 4/4 and marked, as I said, with brilliance. And it's got quite a fast tempo. Of course, we will play it at the end at the fast tempo, but we start practicing with a slower speed to give our body a chance to get used to all of the things that it needs to achieve. Let me just give you a little demonstration of the opening at speed. So it's quite fun to play. There is, of course, a piano part, and you can find this piano part on Spotify or Apple Music, on all of those major platforms. And it's free to just listen to and play along. So the piano part starts right after you. So we hear this bada, bada. So the piano is literally like a duet partner with you. So you begin it and you have to give a good upbeat, of course not for the online version, but when you're playing with your real life pianist. So we have to think about giving a crotchet or a quarter note, either sniff or upbeat. So you can go, so you see what I did there? Two of those notes equal, so that's a great way of doing it. Of course the sniff can be quite loud, so another option is to start with the bow and go an up bow in the air. Now that gets a little bit harder, but it's another option for you to practice. I'm going to do a slower version from the top. So just in the very first phrase, we need to have the down bow and the up bow equal in length. So you can see there I'm using longer bows for the crotchets or quarter notes. Let's try one more time, a little more up to tempo. Long, long. Now, on that last bar, at bar 4, there's an accent on the 4th quaver. So you have to give a little kick on that note. And how do we do that? We turn over a little bit onto our first finger and give that a little more pressure. You can even use a little bit of your elbow. So it's like your elbow turns up onto your first finger, and that gives a nice little ring to that note. It happens again in the next phrase. Long, long. So the more speed that you have and the more pronating onto your first finger, the better. Now that one's easier because there's no string crossing with it at the same time. So easier to just manage the elbow and the first finger. Then we have long crotchets. So just before we go on to the latter half of the piece, let's talk about the dynamics. So at the opening, it's moderately loud. So this, we're using quite a lot of our arm as well. You can see that I'm using a little pendulum. And then we have to do a diminuendo down to the 3rd bar, which is marked moderately soft. Now this is hard because as you come down, the strings get thicker, and as we're down at the lower half of the bow, it's heavier there. So we really have to think about lightening the bow. And now we crescendo. Longer. So we're back to that bigger arm stroke when we're higher. When it's louder. Lots of arm here. Quiet again. Kick. So you see on that kick, It's an anti-clockwise circle and a kick. So it's two different things you have to do. Lots of practice slowly. Move, kick. So you start the string crossing early in our arc. Move, kick. Kick. At the very end, our last phrase, we finally have a crescendo to loud, to forte. So we use the most bow that we have there. Excellent. So I would highly recommend practicing this one with the metronome. I've now turned on the metronome. Now this metronome marking is the final one. So this is much faster than how you will practice it at the very start. So just the last line, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can hear when I'm not exactly on the beat. Let's try it one more time. So the metronome never lies. You can see in the second last bar, this idea of a string crossing can sometimes slow me down. Move, move. So the metronome is a very important tool in your practice. There's a link below for the sheet music to this piece. Thank you for watching this video. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below.